Alright, so today we are going to be fixing this. So as you can see, that's a lot of rust on the wheel. Basically what happened is my brakes have been making noise forever and I chose to ignore that. Not the best choice. And so I pulled my wheel off the other day. I was like, okay, let's finally go get a look at this. And it turns out what was going on there is there's no brake pad left. So what did you do? Oh, you're fine. You just slid to another bolt. And, all right, cool. So we're off the ground there. So yeah, there's no pads left. So we're gonna fix that today. Let me show you what we got going on here. So you got the jack on the lower arm. That's the top of those rivets I was just talking about there. So when you hear a pop, that's just the jack sliding on those. I've got this jack stand right under the arm here, so that'll be good. The other one is back there for moral support, so let's go ahead and get this wheel off. Good old Milwaukee on a dead battery. This is what our brand new brake pad looked like, right? You can see it's nice and thick. So you'll notice all that thick stuff is supposed to be right here, and it's not, so that's cool. So what we're gonna do, I already broke the caliper bolts loose yesterday, so we don't have to worry about that. We're gonna start by popping this out. This is the spring that retains the springs. I'm sorry. This is like a spring clip, it retains the pins. Let me just say, the fact that these pins are coming out like this is impressive. Do not expect that to be normal. Gonna use our Lexus pliers. Just kind of help push these through. There we go. There we go. Kind of wiggle it. This right here is why you grease this stuff up good when you put it together, so that these things don't seize in there. Should be able to just pull that out now. Yep. There goes that. We have new ones, but that is reusable. Now there's a few things you can do here. You can either use some screwdrivers and push them back, or there is a tool. Let me show you the screwdriver method first. Now these rotors are getting replaced. We're just gonna dig this screwdriver right in between the rotor and the pad there. And we're just gonna press back. That is gonna help draw those pistons back into the caliper so we can get our new pads in there. Now if this does not happen, then there's an issue with the pistons. You're probably going to need a new caliper at that point. Now if you plan on reusing the rotor or reusing the pad, I would not do this method. But there we go. Now I'm replacing both, so for me that doesn't matter. This is our brand new brake pad, so we can see all that thick pad material. That's not good. That is no pad material. I was just pushing straight into the backing plate on that. That is why all that stuff was on the wheel. This comes with shims on it, which is cool. The Toyota ones are dual shim. There's actually shim on there still. And here's the other one that just fell off of it. So, these are glued on. This is actually a glued on dual shim too. So, I was hoping that these shims didn't get destroyed when I did this to the pad. And they didn't. They actually look reusable, which is good. So I'm going to hang on to these shims because they're good to have, but I won't actually need to use them. So that's cool. Get our other pad out of here. And this pad, this one's actually not horrible. It's still decently thick.
Yo, pause. Nah, but for real, what I meant here was like in reference to the other pad. This is not a thick pad. Like if you went to a shop, this is when we'd be like, yeah, it's time to replace them.
So I'm not 100% certain why that inner one wore down so low, but I do wheel this truck. It does get muddy and a bunch of other nonsense in there. So I would be willing to bet that that's what happened. These probably got too hot. This is our factory Toyota pad. You can see our, what a lot of people call in English, the Tech logo, because it looks like TEQ, but that's really just Toyota in Japanese. AZ pads. So this is going to be a 17. All right, set this to off. Just got a caliper bolt up here. And we got another one down here. We're gonna grab something to hang our caliper from. This is where you'll want just a short bungee cord, because we're gonna hang the caliper. I'm just gonna hang it from my spring there. So anyways, let's get these bolts the rest of the way out. Now, a very important thing during this process is don't hit the brakes. Don't compress the brakes, because these pistons are gonna shoot right out of the caliper, and you're gonna have problems. Here's the other big important thing. I'll pick you up and show you guys this in just a second. But the brake hose, make sure that does not get twisted. You'll lose all your brake pressure. That's not a fun time for anybody. Make sure you're holding on to that because it's gonna want to run away. Pop him off. Grab our bungee cord through there. And we're just gonna let that guy hang. Cool. This is what I was talking about with the brake line here, right? If this brake line gets twisted for any reason, so say you took this caliper, you spun it 360 and put it back on, you're not gonna have any brake pressure. So, very important that we don't move that at all. Now, here's another fun part. These are gonna be stuck on here. Now I'm watching this right in here on the hub. We can actually see this starting to move, so we're gonna spin. There we go. So now our rotor comes off. We can see some of the grooves and stuff that were getting cut into the back of this rotor. Not good. Now we're gonna get this brake cleaned off. It's actually a pretty good time too to inspect some of our other hardware while we're back here. At some point, this steering knuckle, I do want to replace this. New on the other side. This one's not, but that is what it is. Looking at some things like our dust plate here. Our dust plate's done. But that doesn't really matter too much. So that's okay. Everything on our axle seems okay. This axle needs to get replaced anyways though, because it's leaking grease. So we're gonna brake clean this off. Now you don't want to get too liberal with this stuff because brake clean will eat through paint. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to spray any painted surfaces or anything like that. But just want to get that WD-40 and stuff off the hub. And I'm also gonna see if I can find one of my wire brushes. Try to just clean some of this rust up. Got a little brass bristle brush here. I'm just gonna try to clean this hub up. Your new brake rotor is always going to come with some film on it. So we're just going to clean that off. AutoZone gave me the wrong rotor. These are too big. I'm going to catch a ride over to AutoZone and get this fixed. All right, so we got the new rotors here. By the way, this is what the pile of parts to work on this looks like. It's really not as bad as it looks. But anyway, so listen, if you're buying rotors and you happen to have a 2004 SR5 Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-Road 5-speed manual, you do not have stability control, even though there's an ABS light. For some reason that makes a difference in rotors. And so these are actually a little smaller. The other ones I have were a little too, well, not a little, they were too big. So let's get back to this project now. I'm going to do the same thing I showed you earlier with just cleaning the rotors off.
Alright, so you're going to see me put these 2 lug nuts on here. It's really just to hold the rotor on flat. That way it's not fighting you when you're trying to put the caliper on. And then from there, before putting the caliper on, you'll see me fight with it for a little bit here. Just with one of the snap rings for dust boot on the piston came off. I ended up just scrapping this ring because realistically there's no way that the boot was still on there. It's not torn. There's no way for it to fall out because it would have to come, like, the pads would have to fall out and then it would have to come off around the piston. So I said screw it, it's a retaining ring. I just ditched that and let it go. Then we put the caliper bolts in here. I like to start with the top bolt. That way you can kind of see too, like you can just swing the bottom half in until the threads line up for the bottom bolt. And then we just run both of those bolts tight here with the ratchet. I like to get them snug and then just tighten them up. These things don't have to be like set to 1,000,000. You know, they don't have to be super tight, but you want them to be tight. Yeah, that's about it. Otherwise, this is just a quick little voiceover because I decided to start monologuing here about a car I went and test drove. And all right, let's get back to brakes.
Now, it is in my personal opinion, you cannot use too much brake grease. On our pad here, pad's going to sit like this with our holes at the top so that they can set the pins for it can slide through there.
So I didn't do a great job narrating what I'm doing here, but basically the new pad didn't fit. So I used one of the old pads and put it against the rotor, and then the same screwdriver method to push the pistons back in, basically using that old pad to protect the face of the new rotor so the screwdriver doesn't damage it.
We're going to get our brake grease here. Grease up the piston. Now you do not want to get grease on the rotors. So really what I prefer to do is just to grease the back of the pad. Back of the pad's going to touch the pistons. It's going to be fine there. And here's the other thing, okay? This area right here, bottom of the caliper, top of the caliper, where the pads are going to touch, you want to grease that too. It's a pretty important spot to get grease on. Grease the pad. You can grease the caliper. I usually grease the caliper. Get some of that on the piston face there. Perfect. We're going to go ahead and get this pad in. There we go. And perfect. So that pad's in, so we're all good there. Top of the caliper. Boom on the pistons. Perfect. If we do get some on the rotor, don't worry about that. We're just going to rotate it out. We'll spray that with brake clean in a minute. Get the pads in here. Perfect. That's what we should have looked like when we started. Now, our pins, we're going to grease these. We're also going to clean them up. I'm going to use this wire brush that I used earlier for cleaning the hub. And this retainer spring, again, I have one of these. Don't need it, but we'll use the new one since we have it. And this goes in like that. You can see there's 2 divots in it down here and up here for the pins to ride on. So we're going to get our first pin greased up here. And the reason we're greasing these pins is when the pistons slide out, there's little holes in the piston, or in the pads, sorry, that this pin goes through, right? So when these pads move in, they're going to slide on this pin. Going to use our Lexus grippers here, just shift this out so that lines up, and there we go. Our pin goes right through like that. All right, perfect. Now this keeps spring tension on the backs of these pads. We're going to spin this so that we can see the hole in it. Cool. We need to be able to see that hole because that retainer spring that makes sure the pins doesn't fall out, it's going to go through that, so we need to make sure we can see that. So same deal, we're going to come through the hole, press our spring down so that the pin rides through its groove on it. And then same deal, I'm going to have to pull this pad up a little bit so that the hole lines up. Perfect. Pin comes right through, and there we are. This little hook, there's a hole in the caliper here. Right there. It's going to come through that hole. And then this one leg down here is going to go through this pin. Get it through, come through this. Then our other leg goes through this pin up here. And you may have to spin the pin to get this to line up. Just a little tricky to do because there's not much of it to grab by. There we go. And that spring retainer clip sits right through there. Great. So now our spring is installed here. Got our pins through. Our pads look nice and fat in there. And we got our new spring clip on there. So at this point we can go ahead and throw the wheel back on, and then we're done. Ultimately, brakes really relatively easy to do. And one of our other last verifications is just going to be this brake hose here. Okay, no kinks in that. Perfect. No kinks up here. Perfect. So our brake hose isn't twisted. We'll have good brake pressure. There is a spot here on this rotor where I did get some grease, and I told you I spun that out. I don't have much of this left. Give that just a little shot. Clean that off. We are all set.
All right, and here we are, all done. So I got finished this. I did the driver's side as well. Go to do my test drive like normal, right? And get to the end of my driveway. Thankfully, I'm not on like an open street or anything. I hit the brakes and nothing happened. Kept rolling. I forgot one of the most important parts here. You have to pump the brakes before you drive the car. So basically, just like press your brake pedal down, let it go, press down, let go, press down, let go. You'll notice it goes all the way down, like all the way to the firewall when you first press it. And then after a few cycles, it starts to feel normal. You're basically just building pressure back up in the lines after doing this. I would do that with the car running. I don't actually think it matters, but way better than finding out while driving like I did that all of a sudden there's no brake pressure. But yeah, other than that, pretty simple job. So if you liked it, let me know. If you have questions, let me know down below. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed, maybe learned something.